Hi and welcome to the AtheistDominion. My name's Rob. In my previous video, many of you commanded me to prove that the mud flood didn't happen. Unfortunately, none of you actually proved that it did happen. If you believe it, then you have to prove it. Simply asking others to prove that it didn't happen is the lazy way out. So let me say it again. If you believe it, then you have to prove it. Research means using all of the scientific disciplines available. If you have a hypothesis, then you use research to either prove or disprove that hypothesis. Is filming old buildings a form of research? Yes, it is. Is looking at photos of old buildings on the internet a form of research? Yes, it is as well. But the problem is, that's all you do. That kind of research will only get you so far. Just filming old buildings and then proclaiming them to be mud flood achieves nothing. So, to help you, I've compiled a list of scientific disciplines that you can use to help you determine the validity of the mud flood. And for the purposes of this discussion, I've used the date of the 1840s, as that date seems to come up often as the preferred date for when this mud flood is supposed to have happened. So, here we go. Here are some of the scientific disciplines that you can use to help you figure out whether the mud flood was real or not. Remember, this is research. This is the stuff you aren't doing at the moment. Geomorphology. Research the history of the landscape. Why does it look the way it does? Study the landforms to determine its geology. If there was a worldwide mud flood, then by the study of the landscape and what's under it, you'll be able to determine if a cataclysmic mud flow occurred, where it occurred, and to what extent it reshaped the landscape. Geophysics. This may help to reveal the mechanisms that triggered a worldwide mud flood, if such a thing occurred. Cartography. Study town survey maps before the town was built, and also look at historic topographic maps before the town was established. Maps made by pioneers are useful, maps made by railway companies before they built the tracks. Maps are a great way to learn how a landscape changes, either through natural processes or man-made ones. Sedimentology. This is vital to an understanding of how rock, silt, sand and soil are moved about. If you believe this building here is the victim of the mud flood, then an analysis of the ground here, using the disciplines of sedimentology and geomorphology, will reveal whether this is solidified mud or the natural land surface. Soil analysis. Do analyses of soil core samples around suspected mud flow buildings. This will help to determine if the soil is native to that area or was washed into it from another or even distant source. Architecture. Architectural styles can be traced and charted, just like the changing styles of fashion and music. Knowing how architecture has changed and evolved over the centuries will show you why buildings are built the way they were. Study old documents, newspapers, journals, births, deaths and marriage certificates. Do all these show that the worldwide population suddenly plummeted in the 1840s? Study journals to see if anyone wrote about a mud flood. There's tens of thousands of journals in archives all over the world. The same with newspapers. Are there any articles that report on how towns and cities across the world were suddenly buried? And also, if there was a civilization reset, why do newspapers in the 19th century keep going, issue after issue, without a break? So in terms of old documents, you've got a lot of work to do there. Archaeology. Do an excavation. Hard to do in a city, of course, but in a small town you might get permission. So find a building in your town or wherever that you believe is the victim of a mud flood, get permission and start digging. And if you believe the mud flow occurred in the 1840s, then the mud layer you expect to find around that building will feature debris from that time period, i.e. bottles, tools, shoes, etc. So, are you going to employ any of these scientific disciplines to help establish whether the mud flood happened or not? Yes or no? If yes, then I applaud you and eagerly look forward to your findings. If, however, you're going to do the same old thing by just filming old buildings and looking at photos of old buildings on the internet as the extent of your research, then I'm afraid you're not going to get anywhere. As I've said before, research is hard. It takes years, it takes decades, even an entire lifetime. It's not an easy thing to do. It takes dedication and commitment. But the point is they put the effort into it. At the moment, with people who believe in mud flood, I have not seen any of that effort. So look, if you're absolutely convinced that there was a worldwide mud flood, if you're absolutely sure that it happened, then you need to prove it. Okay, that's your job to prove it. It's not my job to disprove it, because you haven't given us much of anything that we can work on yet. You have to prove it. You have to give everyone else your findings, your analyses, your information, your conclusions. You have to use the scientific discipline to either prove or disprove your hypothesis. It's no point just sitting there and complaining that other people don't agree with you. We've got nothing to go on. You really haven't given us anything. It's up to you. So that's what this video is about. It's up to you to do the hard work and to find out whether the mud flood occurred or it didn't occur. If it occurred and you can prove it through the scientific method, you'll be stars. You'll be famous. You'll be rich. But if you're just going to do the same old things of filming old buildings and just saying they're mud flood, or just going through countless photographs on the internet and saying they're mud flood, I'm afraid you've just gone into a dead end. You have to prove it. So let me know what you come up with. Looking forward to it. Thank you very much for watching. If you do like my videos and my channel, please subscribe and comment and like, and I'll see you again soon.